To make a real quick video on KV ratings, amperages, all this stuff, because I did a lot of research over the past couple days on motors to buy this for this boat. So let's get into this. You see this on most motors online. You don't even know what you're looking at. What the heck is a KV? KV is RPM per volt. So that's 2,000 RPMs per volt. So there's some motors, same exact size, same price, same everything. That's 8,000 RPMs per volt. So per volt, you're turning this thing way more. The only issue is battery type. So if you get a motor like this, you have to, I think you have to get a higher voltage motor to turn this guy. Whereas you get an 8,000, you only need you need a lower voltage battery. It doesn't matter, you could do 7 volts, whatever, but you're gonna get more turns out of that volt. So that being said, this Mota's 2000 is better for an application where you're probably gonna stay pinned all the time. So that being said though, you know, this is gonna take a 10 volt battery or whatever, 16 volt battery. So this is where batteries come into play. If you have a 4S on this motor, this is a 2000, we're still using the 2000 volts. You have 4S on this motor. It's going to generate a lot more heat because it's going to be pulling a lot more amperage to keep up with that speed. So that's 11 volts. 11 volts running to this motor, going to this guy, which is only 150 amps. Well, it's using every bit of that 150 amps because it's only running on 11 volts. This motor really should be running on a 6S because that's when it's most efficient. When you run a 6S, you're at 16 volts or so. So you're pulling less amperage because you have more voltage. That's something that, just take that in. The more voltage, the less amperage. Less voltage, more amperage. Amperage creates heat. Voltage, you know, it's just there or not. That's the like super basics. So what happened with this guy is that I had 150 amp, which is pretty good. The problem was, this motor was honestly really good too, is I probably should have gone with a bigger battery. I had a 4S and I cheaped out. I didn't want to get the 4S battery or a 6S battery, which I think if I got a 6S battery, I might have been okay with not using water-cooled system, but it's a boat. I mean, I don't know what I was trying to think. I did have a water-cooled, the motor was water-cooled, so that was fine. This guy overheated a bunch. So you're really not getting around this thing overheating unless you water-cool it. But trying to think of what else. I have some notes here. Bear with me a second while I look through what I wrote down. Yeah, so that's another thing. A lot of people think, okay, well this thing can't, because it's 2000, it can't turn as fast as an 8000. That's not true. It's just going to take more voltage, a bigger battery, to turn this at what an 8000 would be, where it would take I don't know what voltage, a lower voltage to turn it faster. So it's not like this thing is limited. It's not like this thing is not going to be just as fast. It's just going to take a bigger battery. But that also means, because you're taking a bigger battery, you can actually size this down. You could do a 70 amp because it's not generating as much heat. You're using more voltage. See, this is where you get into playful things. So this boat, I did an 8,000 kV motor with a 60 amp ESC. The reason I went so high is, one, 8,000 is going to take more voltage to turn. Yes. And, sorry, it takes less voltage to turn. But that being said, I'm drawing more amperage. So I have to up the amperage, and this is not going to be water cooled, so I went way above and beyond. I basically doubled what the motor specs were. I went with a 2430 brushless, like some cheap Chinese one, and then some cheap Chinese ESC that was like 60 amps, so that even at full throttle for a while, it should not overheat in theory. But that's what I said about this. You think I'd learned my lesson, but I mean, that's going to be way overpowered for this thing. There's no way I'm going to use that much throttle. I really didn't use that much throttle on this thing, but once again, the reason that this would overheat is because I was on 4S, so it was struggling to move this even at half throttle, because I'm running half the voltage that this thing wants. So that's why this would overheat. It's pulling so much amperage. And when I pinned it, it was like, bro, you were trying to squeeze this out of me. It's not working. That's why this guy would overheat. That will not be the case for that. And that's a huge amperage for that motor. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on how that stuff works and what it means, all the numbers, whatnot. If there's something I missed, if there's something that I'm wrong about, please put that in the comments, because I'm not an expert on this. This is just what I learned over my research, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So let's see, did I cover everything that I wanted to? Yeah, number of poles and a motor. It's basically, this is a 4-pole, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't really need to know the makeups. That has to do with timing of the motor. You're not, I mean, unless you're really racing vehicles, timing is not something you're going to be looking into. But timing is basically when the electricity hits the magnet. You know, you got your rotor turning, and you got your pole on the outside. Well, basically, it's coming around, and before your timing is when the electromagnet is electrocuted, is electrified. So it can be electrified here. You time it here, and then it shoots over that way, or you time it. You time it to shoot here. It pushes it. You know, your timing is basically when this electromagnet is going to fire as to where the rotor's at around that magnet. Sorry.